informal hearing subcommittee called just for the folks in the audience. We have several commissioners that are here, but the voting commissioners will be Commissioner Wilbur, Commissioner Beverly, and Commissioner Wright, who are members of the informal subcommittee, regular members of the informal subcommittee. And if somebody has to abstain from voting, then we will have one of the other commissioners jump in. All post commissioners have previously agreed to recuse themselves from any vote that would constitute a conflict of interest. Most obvious of these include issues that involve their own departments or people that they know personally. Because they've already agreed to do this, it should be noted that on routine matters, it will be assumed non-verbally that these commissioners have abstained from that vote. In bigger, more controversial issues, that there may be a bigger conflict of interest where there may be an appearance of impropriety, those applicable commissioners will still verbally abstain from those votes. We're going to get started, and we'll call the roll of the folks that are up to be heard in front of the informal committee. So when I call your name, you just say here if you're here. And if you're not here, I guess we won't hear anything. So Michael Lee. Here. Michael Lee, all right.
If I may start here with him, he's going to need to, if we can, pass his appearance to one hearing date. I've had a hearing infection for about a week, and we haven't been able to prepare adequately. And also, we're trying to get his IA file still. So
okay, we will we'll take him second on the agenda. We have one, but we'll get you all taken care of at that time. Johnny Cyrus here. Here. Okay. Jeremiah Johnson here, sir. Okay. Connor Bracken. Connor Bracken. Joshua Hawkins. Joshua Jeremiah Hawkins. Timothy Powers. Timothy Powers. Justin Murphy.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Matthew Spencer. Okay. Carrie Workman.
Here.
Okay. We are going to go slightly out of order. I understand, Mr. Workman, you have an attorney here with you.
I do, sir.
I understand that you've got another pressing matter. So,
if everybody would indulge me, my son graduates. He's a senior, and he's at his last football banquet tonight in Henry County, and I'd like to try to get back to this.
We'll take you first.
Thank you.
All right. Weekly County Sheriff's Office, Kerry Neal Workman. Mr. Workman was submitted for decertification based on his resignation in lieu of termination. Can we get a representative from the department to step up? Sheriff, I know we know who you are, but if you would, just for the record, state your name and your title and tell us the reason that you're here and tell us about this case.
Terry McLean with the county sheriff. I'm here about the matter, Mr. Workman. It was we sent it over to CID to November when a question came up about his military service. He had testified to on a homicide case in April. And I can read some excerpts between the district attorney's office as well as the NCIS investigator that got back with the VA office.
Sure, go ahead.
And basically, the testimony was April the 24th, 2024. And during the questioning, Mr. Workman was asked about were you in the military? He stated yes, he was. And the public defender then said, well, how long? He said about 2 years. Sometime later, the public defender went to the district attorney's office, questioning the length of time being correct or not about his military service. So the district attorney, now that perjury has been brought on the table, they have to look into it. They called Mr. Workman down to their office, explained to him the public defender had an issue about his time, if it was what he said it was. He told them, his answer to them was he had enlisted in 2000, and this is written by the district attorney's office. He enlisted in 2000. That day was when he signed papers, and that's when he considered himself enlisted and his enlistment date. He received a medical referral or a stay for almost a year after signing his papers. This was followed by a family issue that delayed his report to basic. He then spent 11 months and 21 days in the military. He went from 2000 to 2003 when he got out, as saying that was his 3 years. Well, the questions that were sent to Special Agent Lansky of the NCIS, the district attorney said we have some questions. When and how long was Mr. Workman in the United States Marine Corps or military? And there are other questions on here are, was he ever in combat? Did he have any, these range from killing enemy combatants, being shot in combat, or being medically discharged because he rappelled out of the helicopter and hurt his leg. Okay, and those were not all under oath. These were other officers that brought that to the DA's office. So they sent all these questions to the NCIS investigator just to get the gist of the whole matter. Okay, so he enlisted December of 2020. December of 2002. Okay, he went full time January 22nd, 2002, and he got out January 13th, 2003, which was 11 months and 21 days, not the 3 years which started this question. They sent that he had basically never finished any training while he was in the military, and they found that he had asthma. They told him some regiments to do. It says he didn't follow the regiments, so they honored this one.
Questions for the sheriff from the members of the commissioners or members of the formal committee?
This Commissioner Green, did the DA's office have issues with him testifying in future cases?
They said they will not take any more of these cases since they found that to be true. I'll send a letter to y'all might have their letter.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions from the commissioners? All right, Sheriff, we may call you back up if they have any further questions. Mr. Workman, you and your attorney. And before each of you speak, if you would just identify yourself the first time for the record.
Yes, sir. My name is Chad Cox. I'm an attorney from Paris, Henry County, Tennessee. I represent Terry Workman in this matter. I'll be speaking on Mr. Workman's behalf, mainly because if there is some sort of indictment that the DA goes forward for Mr. Workman's perjury, I don't want him making any statements here today that might be used against him, even though he has fully cooperated and talked to them previously. And so if I may, this is my first time here, and if I don't do it correct, please let me know, because judges don't have a hard time telling me everything wrong.
This is an informal committee, so it's informal, and so just go ahead and say your side of this.
Gotcha. Well, first off, it's been since 2001 since I was in this building. When I came in here as a dad, it was I just left, it was a dump. We did some training in here. And so I left here in December 2001. Then 2 weeks later, I went across the hill to the Highway Patrol Academy for 6 more months. So I could run and do push-ups back then. So I say all that to say what we do here is important. Even though I may have went to the dark side, as some of them like to tell me, I still run blue. And it's important what we do here today that we make sure that officers are held to a high standard. I've known Mr. Workman for several years, going up against him. And honestly, if he's not working with the Sheriff's Department anymore, it makes my job easier because I don't have to go up against a good investigator. Mr. Workman in a preliminary hearing was asked a question before any of the material questions were asked by the public defender. Have you served in the military? Yes. And he stated, he asked him how long, he said 3 years. Sometimes we all misspeak. That was not a material any kind of material question, any kind of bearing that had whatsoever on the preliminary hearing at hand, which was a murder case. that Mr. Workman,
Commissioner Wilbur, I'm talking about, was he under oath?
he was under oath.
So doesn't that give you a heightened, responsibility of saying the truth on even opening questions?
If it's material, and I don't think.
So you can lie, it's not
No,
material.
ma'am, I don't believe that. If you look at the statute of perjury, it says with intent to deceive. There was no intent. There was nothing that Mr. Workman could gain by saying he'd been there 3 years. If Mr. Workman had said, yeah, I was in combat, which I heard what Mr. McDade said, none of those things have ever was mentioned in the hearing. They just asked about the military. But if he said he was in combat and he received all these awards and he was a colonel and all that, absolutely. That is material. That is some kind of intent to deceive. But to say, okay, I was in there for a year, and if he had tried to enlist and he had to postpone it, and then he was in military service until 2003, it's not 3 years. It's a little over, it's right at 2. And I say that to say this. When people ask me, Chad, how long was you on the highway patrol? I say 10 years. That is an outright lie. And I have to think about it because I was there almost 8 years, but I had 2 years in Department of Corrections, another 6 months with Paris Police Department. Sometimes we speak before we think. Now, this officer's never had a write-up. He's an investigator. He's a darn good one. What he said was a mistake. He wasn't trying to deceive anyone. He wasn't trying to gain anything by it. When the DA's office says we are not going to prosecute any of his cases, I would like to share with the board a subpoena that Mr. Workman received from the district attorney's office in the 27th district. I can enter that. I don't know if we enter evidence or. But it's a subpoena for him to come testify on February the 5th in a murder trial. It's a murder trial, not the right case. In a murder trial. If he is such a liar and they can't trust him, he can't prosecute his cases, why are they subpoenaing him on February the 5th? I've seen a lot of things in my life. But when somebody misspeaks on an immaterial fact, I get it. I'm a defense attorney, but he can be rehabilitated. First thing I do as a prosecutor is I would ask him point blank, you ever said anything on stand that maybe wasn't correct? That's how you rehabilitate. And take away his livelihood is for a misspoken word. It's just not right. And
I may interrupt you for just a
Yes,
second,
sir.
just based on the subpoena you sent. This is to testify for the plaintiff, not for the state.
No, sir, if I may, I have another subpoena from the defendant's office. So I wanted to share.
This is for the plaintiff.
Sir, the state of Tennessee is the plaintiff.
Okay.
But I do have another subpoena from the defense attorney who also subpoenaed, if you would like to see that. And that doesn't say for the defendant, it just says Kent Guerin, who's the attorney for the defendant. So DA's office, so what happens is they call Mr. Workman. Hey, we need you to come testify. Will you come testify? You know what? He was kind of reluctant, really. But if you send me a subpoena, I'll sure be there. And they did. And he's going to be there February 5th to testify in a murder trial that this department and that 27th Judicial District says he's not worthy of being a police officer and he's not worthy to testify because he's a liar. And I have a police chief here from Gleason and also in Lincoln County who Mr. Workman went to work for until he received a letter from Post. And so what he did, he's here. He can testify in front of or tell this panel about Mr. Workman. Mr. Workman made a mistake. Weakley County doesn't want to keep him. That's fine. They have a right to fire him. Makes my job easier. I don't have to go against him. About 3 or 4 months ago, I represented a police officer in Dresden. Mr. Workman investigated that police officer in Dresden. I asked Mr. Workman a question that he could have easily told me no, and I never would have known the answer, and nobody else would either, but he didn't. It wasn't favor. I mean, what it was is if you ever, in your entire career, stop a car, somebody had a little bit of marijuana, you don't charge them, you throw it away, you work that person. He could have told me no. He was honest, said yeah, like I did, like probably every other police officer in this room. I'm pretty passionate about law enforcement. I'm passionate about good police officers. I'm asking this post today to close this case, not to decertify Mr. Workman. Let him go back. He doesn't go back to Wicked County. But it's hard enough to find good police officers anyway. If we're going to send one out the door, we're never going to find them. I'll take any questions anybody has.
Is the DA's office indicated that they are going to seek an indictment or presentment?
Ma'am, I don't know that. That's just been speculation and rumor. However, since we're here on this, nothing I wouldn't be surprised about anything.
Commissioner Beverly might be appropriate. Sheriff might have to come up. Can you advise on that?
I'd like to elaborate on a few things.
I guess for now, you know if there's any indictment coming.
I do not believe so. They said.
I know you had some follow-up. You'll let the other commissioner maybe ask him some questions and go from there.
So I've got a question very quick. Is it possible that maybe the subpoenas fell through the cracks and I mean, did you address the DA about these subpoenas? Why, not receiving?
Sir, they called Mr. Workman about a week ago about testifying in this case. And that's when he told them, if I may, I can look back at my notes. That's when they told him, yes, he would testify, he'll honor a subpoena. So it was well after this process has been started. It was a week ago when they issued those subpoenas and served Mr. Workman.
Thank you.
And that's, I believe it's on the subpoena itself on what day it was issued.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions from the commissioners?
Commissioner Wright, one of them, just so everybody knows, it was January the 9th and the other one was January 14th.
And if I may, January 14th was the defense attorney's subpoena, and January 9th was the state Tennessee subpoena.
Yes, the sheriff, that's follow-up. It's kind of light, but give him a chance.
If y'all would just stand by.
Thank you.
Commissioner Wright.
Go ahead. Well,
Yes, sir.
okay, there's nobody done more than you. So to say that I'm disappointed and hurt is an understatement. All right. And as far as those subpoenas go, we didn't have a choice. It's a murder case. He's worked the case. Who else is going to testify? So we don't have a choice but to ask. Okay. Or we would have figured something else out. And so we want to get into those subpoenas and get into whatever you want to get into. But nobody's more disappointed than I am in my office. And you can ask me anything you want to ask. But
Just let him follow if he had something to follow up.
I just want to explain this thing. We don't have a choice.
Commissioner.
I do have a question for the attorney and Mr. Worthman. One would be, actually, I know you want to speak on his behalf, but Mr. Worthman, do you used to work for Terry Bassbander?
Yes, sir.
Albina County Sheriff's Department?
Yes, sir.
And last name again, Chad?
Cox, COX.
You was actually Henry County.
No, sir. Well, I was a trooper in Henry County.
I want to say you just do it prior, also pass with both of these. But I do have a question. When did we obtain our post certification?
Answer that.
2010.
If I may for a follow-up, and I'll let Mr. Workman speak to this. Can I ask him a question and then he can answer? You heard Sheriff Day say that you were the only person that could testify on that murder case. Was there anybody else in the room when this suspect wrote out a statement and confessed to this?
Yes, sir. Chief Deputy Candace Winstead was in the room. We had a full handwritten confession, and the entire interview was recorded on video.
So I would submit that he's not the only person.
Commissioner Beverly, I guess the sheriff had alluded to, an injury from a helicopter and potential combat. Any reason that would come up, or is there any of the deputies that would anything you would know that would lead a deputy to question that or think that?
I have no, he and I have discussed this and he can answer it. I've never heard that before. This was all about, preliminary hearing, whether you'd served in the military, and he misspoke and said 3 years when it was a little over a year or right at a year.
Gotcha.
I don't know where the helicopter and the combat, Mr. Workman, I'll be glad for him to be able to answer that.
I don't recall ever saying I was injured in a helicopter in combat. I've never said that to anybody. I have been injured.
Two different things, I guess, falling out of a helicopter or seeing combat.
Clean both up. But I mean, it's not relevant to what the situation.
I think we're here today on a thing that was talked about inside a subpoena or during a preliminary hearing, and not what guys may or may not talk about sitting around shooting the bull.
This is Commissioner Green, and I'm going to ask a very pointed question because it is about honesty. It's honesty under cross-examination in a court hearing. It's honesty about what you may allude to other officers about your credibility. So the question is, have you been dishonest about your military service?
No, sir, I just misspoke during a preliminary hearing.
Which would be saying something other than the truth.
Yes, sir. I mean, it's
That's,
unintentional.
that's the question I have. It's about the honesty issue. And then my question to Mr. Cox would be, if you were defending this person in the murder trial, would you not use this credibility of this officer against him in the court to defend your defendant or the defendant in the case?
I represent.
I know you're representing him.
Mr. Workman
I
today.
know, but as an attorney,
As an attorney.
would this credibility come into question in a courtroom?
No, because a good district attorney is going to take care of that problem before dire. And when you put him on the stand and you ask him point blank, if you made a statement while you're testifying, and get it out there. I've done this way
Still ask
before.
that on, a good defense attorney will still ask that on cross-examination, say, have you lied under oath? And the answer is yes.
I would disagree and say the answer is no. I misspoke. And if we don't think that there's not misspoken words every time there's a jury trial or somebody under subpoena, then we're living in a false world. If I'm at 39-16-702, a person commits an offense of perjury with intent to deceive. If you go with aggravated perjury, it's with intent. It has to be a material fact. They
I
can never
understand that
charge.
he may not ever be charged with perjury, but we're taking a larger view of this officer's integrity and honesty. And I appreciate what you're doing for your client, but I'm just gonna put it out there. I'm gonna make a motion to approve the decertification.
Which commissioner would like to stand in? Green?
I don't mind.
Commissioner Green, okay. So we have a motion by Wilbur to approve. We have a second.
I'll second.
And a second by Green. Any discussion? We'll take the vote. All those commissioners in favor of the motion to approve decertification, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. Our investigator, counselor will give you information on how to proceed further.
And we will. Thank you for your time.
Yes, sir. Okay. We'll go back to the front of the agenda today, and we will take up the matter of Michael Lee. I know we have representatives from the Bradley County Sheriff's Office here. However, the attorney had spoke with us just before the hearing and has a request.
Yes, good afternoon, Director. My name is Adam Izell, that's Izell, I'm from Hamilton County for Michael Lee, who's president. And as the Director indicated, I mentioned to him beforehand that unfortunately, I got to meet with my client briefly before today, but I've been dealing with an ear infection for several days, just on a couple of days of antibiotics. I heard some guy a minute ago say something about how nice this place was a long time ago, but because of my illness the last few days, I haven't been able to prepare with him the way we'd like to. So we would respectfully request that we continue his matter until your next informal date. I think that's March 20th. And the other issue is we're also anticipating getting his internal affairs file. We did not receive that during the administrative appeal process, but I'm requesting it again tomorrow now that his termination is concluded. And I do apologize to whoever appeared from the department ahead of time.
Sure. So back to Wright, Wilbur, and Beverly. Do we have a motion to reset this to March?
Well, Commissioner Ryan, our next one would be March 20, correct? I mean, February 20.
Would February be?
As long as the department can give us the records I don't already have by then, that would be fine with me. So, yes, sir.
Okay. Commissioner Ryan, make a motion to move to.
Commissioner Beverly, second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Wright and a second from Commissioner Beverly to reset this to the February informal. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Hearing none. Reset to February.
Thank you, ma'am. Will be excused, sir.
Yes, sir. Salina Police Department and Johnny Cyrus. We have a representative from the Salina Police Department here.
I believe they're also.
Standing room only today. If you would, just for the record, state your name and position and tell us about this case.
Okay, my name's Terry Wayne Scott, the chief of police of Salina Police Department. I want to tell you, I have called MG, I may stutter, so I apologize for that. Can't understand me, just holler and I'll try to explain it, okay? On October the 4th, there's a young man named Stephen Ridge come to me and filed a complaint on one of my officers. His name is Johnny Cyrus. And I explained to Mr. Ridge that we mandatory we wear body cam. I would view the footage and get back with him and let him know what I see. Then at that time, I went straight to the PD and got on Axon and watched the video. And on the video, I saw, observed, let's see, make sure I got this right. I observed Johnny Cyrus making contact with Stephen at the mechanic shop. That's on PT2, that's right across from the sheriff's office. That's where this young man works. And he was riding a motorcycle. I didn't see him riding a motorcycle, but this is what it's all about. Johnny approached him and asked him for his motorcycle license, and Stephen first said he had them, but eventually he didn't have a motorcycle license. And let's see here. Stephen failed to comply with Johnny and request to show him his license. Then Johnny told him that he's going to place him under arrest. And Stephen got kind of upset about it. Why? He said, I do have a license, but I have a driver's license. I don't have a motorcycle license. And Johnny told him, when Stephen said, I'm going to call Terry, that's me. He tried to call me, had his phone in his hand, trying to call me. And I was working cows that day and I didn't see it. It was all over it. And Johnny told him, he said, you're going to get it, you know, why? But at that time, Johnny pulled his spray. Stephen was leaning up against the truck, trying to get hold of me with a phone and started spraying. He sprayed, looked like he sprayed the whole can. That's what it looked like to me. Then Stephen, in the video, was asking for water. So he walked towards the shop. And as he's going through the door, Johnny punched him. And when he walked into the building, Johnny tased him in the back, the taser. All this was over a motorcycle license. I feel like he violated their policy by doing an accessory of force. I ain't gonna have that in my part. And I like Johnny first. It's one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. I've never done this. But I can't have it in my part.
This is Commissioner Wilbur. Is the DA considering pursuing charges?
Yeah, they're looking at.
Legal, does that mean we need to hold off?
If there's not currently pending charges,
We
we
can go.
can take some kind of action.
The DA has the video and everything.
Commissioner Wright, Chief, do we know what the reason for the stop was? Was there a reason for the stop? Was there a reason to
He said he
ask
saw
for
him
a
driving
license?
down the road. He said he did, says he knows he didn't have a license. So he's got him before and they wrote him a citation a while back.
So he had prior knowledge of him not having a motor.
Yes, and another thing that Stephen brought to my knowledge, and Johnny, they had a petition on Facebook. And everybody was signing, wanting him terminated. Everybody wanted to fire him. And it's been going on for a while. I make my own decisions on that. But Stephen said he signed it, he posted his name on it, he thinks that's the way he got it. That's why that, what that is, because that's a statement he did.
Chief Commissioner Wright, again, just curiosity, don't really have any bearing. How many officers do you have?
I mean, I have,
Yes, sir.
I used to have 6, and I've got 5 got me right now.
Do you, Chief, do you have a use of force policy or written policy in your department?
He has a copy of it, all my officers signed, I have a copy right here. Him signed it.
So the signature is that he reviewed the policy.
Yes, everyone
Yeah,
else
the policy.
I can sign off on.
Was the use of the pepper spray within department policy?
Yeah, everything, yes.
No, I mean, was his use of the pepper spray, did it fall within the guidelines that you set forth for your department in that policy?
Yeah, we were supposed to do that. Yeah, he violated.
That's what I'm asking. So
Yes.
the use of the physical force, the punching, is that,
Stephen
That
didn't
was-
act anyway or touch it in, we just walking away back in the. He wasn't even looking at him when he sprayed him.
and the use of the taser, did that fall within your
That
department?
violated my whole policy.
Okay. Any further questions for the chief? Thank you very much, Chief.
Thank
We
you.
can call you back up.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Byrd and Mr. Cyrus.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Jack Bird, I'm here for Mr. Cyrus. Based on what the chief just discussed, I would ask that this be deferred until we can talk to the DA. I have sent a FOIA request to their department in November for the information pertaining to this and asking for the body cam. That has not been complied with as of today. I've also placed a couple of phone calls there and not been able to get anything. That may be because the DA is looking at it, I don't know. But I'll provide the chief with another copy of that FOIA request today. But I would ask, based upon what his statements were here today, that it be continued out for a period of time until we can resolve those issues.
So the way that we operate with the commission is I will ask you, will your client be willing to sign a voluntary surrender, or not surrender, voluntary suspension of his post commission, so he will not work during the time period that this is being considered by the post commission?
He will,
Okay.
Commissioner. That's standard what we usually do. So
We can get that drafted up. I can email that to you if that's something that the commission's comfortable with.
So typically what we do in this type of situation is we would, I would advise the commissioners to reset this for next month with your appearance required if he does not sign the agreed order of suspension. So if he does, then you want to
those
show
shut
that.
next one.
Right.
He'll sign. Ms. Nicely, you're gonna email that to me?
Yes, sir. I'll get that to you, probably, I'm out of time next week, so probably follow Monday. That works.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioners.
It's not over yet. The commissioners need to discuss it and talk about it.
Yes, Beverly, I'll make a motion to defer, till we, next month, unless we get a reorder of suspension. Commissioner Wright, say.
We have a motion by Beverly and a second by Commissioner Wright. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll take the vote. All those in favor of resetting this to February, pending the signature of Mr. Cyrus on the voluntary suspension, Any further discussion? So that's the motion on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Hearing none. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Jackson County Sheriff's Office, Jeremiah Johnson. Mr. Johnson was submitted for decertification based on his termination. I believe we have representation from the Jackson County Sheriff's Office here.
Yes, sir.
Sir, if you would step to the podium, state your name and your position, and tell us about this situation.
Good afternoon, Detective Stanton. I'm the current GDI for the sheriff. We submitted Mr. Johnson's certification for discharge of his duty weapon outside of the county on December 2nd with no real reason for the discharge of the firearm. On December 2nd, my sheriff received a call from our neighboring county, the Clay County Sheriff's Department. They received a 911 call by Mr. Johnson's father that he was insinuating that he was going to unalive himself, per his the way he was just talking and stuff of that nature. The reporting sergeant, Anthony Kane, who's currently the chief deputy of Clay County now, was the first responder on the scene. Stated that he talked to Mr. Jeremiah Johnson in regards to what was going on. Mr. Johnson stated to the chief deputy or the sergeant at the time that he was going through an emotional situation with a previous or current girlfriend that just went through a breakup or something to that effect. And Sergeant Kane then asked about the departmental weapon. The father called in and stated that he was armed with a weapon, didn't know to what extent he was willing to go. So Mr. Johnson exited his vehicle and then stated to Sergeant Kane on scene that his service weapon fell out of the vehicle and discharged on the spot. That was his initial story to the responding officer from Clay County. Myself and another sergeant with Jackson County were notified, and the sheriff instructed us to go up to check on his well-being from the emotional standpoint. And that's when we got on scene, engaged with him a little bit, and he told us that he discharged his firearm out of frustration. We collected his duty weapon and any of our direct departmental issued equipment. Further went to his residence, got another vehicle from there, brought it back to the county. And then from that point, the sheriff decided it was in the best interest of the general public safety to terminate him and put him up for decertification.
Questions from the commissioners? All right, sir, if you would just take your seat again
I do have the official report from Clay County. I wasn't able to submit this at the time when we sent it up. If y'all wanted to submit that into y'all's record, if y'all do, I think that's it.
If you would just pass it around and the commissioners can view it. Thank you. Mr. Johnson. Which one of you is Mr.
This
Johnson?
is me. This is my first sergeant from the Great Police Company.
Okay, you can have a seat.
Name's Jeremiah Johnson. I've got some character references to hand out from my counselor and from my behavioral health specialist, and they'll be going to look over.
Sure. Why don't you tell us about the incident?
I have a letter of my own I can read off. Is that
Go ahead.
I'm here to express my deepest regrets of the incident that led to this hearing and to showcase, and forgive me if I get emotional because law enforcement's been my greatest achievement of all. It is important for me to keep my certification, or at least let me volunteer my certification to be suspended until I can get my mental health back on track. I firmly believe that my actions on the day of the incident do not reflect the dedication and commitment to upholding the law that I have consistently demonstrated throughout my career. I have always strived to serve the community with integrity, and professionalism, and I'm committed to learning from this mistake. To ensure it never happens again, I respectfully request that the panel consider my positive record and the steps that I've taken to improve that allow me to continue to serve as a law enforcement officer, and to explain how important it is for me to continue my law enforcement career. I have referenced things that is taken into account for in our protection in an agency. Law enforcement personnel are subjected to horrific events over time, which can distort their perception of what constitutes normal behavior and cause them to adopt an us versus them mentality. Officers frequently have to make life or death decisions, deciding instantly when and why and how much to use force. While formal training is a significant factor in officers' overall life experience may have a great influence, these instances inspire, impact, and motivate officers. The human brain is very good at making shortcuts for efficiency, and you get good at what you practice, and heuristics are introduced into the study as a result. Many related past events or situations may instantly come to mind when you make a decision. As a result, you give greater credits to this information and tend to overestimate the likelihood of similar things happening in the future. Adverse childhood experiences are probably more common among police officers, according to one researcher. Furthermore, during their career, they're exposed to an average of 178 critical incidences, whereas the average person experiences 2 to 3 traumatic events. These instances raise an officer's risk of developing a variety of mental health conditions because of their frequency, severity, and closeness, and perceived threat to death. Officers are 2 to 4 times more likely than the general population of the United States to experience PTSD or a mental health problem. As a law enforcement officer, I have personally gone through a lot of trauma, which has had impact on me and led to symptoms of depression and anxiety. For over a year, I have been fighting my own demons. I've witnessed 2 deceased people from different instances involving an accident, while I have also experienced an infant death call as a deputy for Macon County, and that's been a burden as I'm one and have a child as well. The Law Enforcement Mental Health and Wellness Act was enacted to assist law enforcement organizations in safeguarding the mental health well-being of their personnel. This law acknowledges the need and merit of assistance for law enforcement organizations in their continuous endeavors to safeguard the psychological health and welfare of its personnel. Additionally, this act provides grant funding for training, support services, and peer mentoring to help officers manage stress. Furthermore, the American with Disabilities Act shields those with mental health disorders from discriminating at work, including being terminated, as long as they are still able to carry out their job responsibilities with appropriate accommodations if necessary. I can assure you that my goal is to keep up with my treatment by continuing my counseling sessions and taking my medications for my major depression, as they have been very helpful. If I am able to retain my commission as a law enforcement officer, my goal in life is to always continue to strive to become a better law enforcement official. What happened that day, there was multitudes of things that occurred in my life that I had no control of, which developed the behavior. I have always wanted to work in law enforcement, whether it is for city, county, state, or a federal agency. Proving also with my degrees in criminal justice and public safety, my past history as a correctional officer and currently as a law enforcement officer, and soon working for the military police company for my first sergeant for military police 269. Being an officer gives me the opportunity to give back to those who are in need. Whether it is a role model and inspiring others to become successful, or expressing to others how important it is to take care of mental health. In other words, I'm wanting to be an advocate for those who have trouble seeking mental health or don't have any resources that are available to them. As I've seen multiple occasions that most of these resources are not available right at hand. So I hope the panel can see that I have made efforts to realize certain signs of mental illness, and I am taking the courageous journey of taking care of my mental health as it is something that is just important as my physical health, but unfortunately is considered stigmatized and lessened in value. For years, I've been reluctant on expressing my mental health because it's known to be stigmatized and looked over. So I'm asking the panel if you consider me suspending my certification until I can get back on my mental health.
Are you done reading?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Can you explain to us what happened that day?
Yes, I'm
Can you
sorry.
tell us exactly what happened that day?
I showed up at my mom's house, and again, like I said, I was going through some mental issues I've been dealing with for over a year. That was out of my control. Being around my family at that time wasn't a great idea because I was raised in a family where talking about mental health is not looked into, so I had nobody to talk to. And I exited out of the vehicle, pointed my service pistol to the ground. Nobody was around. I had no intentions for anything besides. My thing is going to the range and safely, doing what needs to be done with training wise when it comes to firearms. So I just shot it in the ground and there was no intent on anything with that. It's just that I ended up volunteering myself. The detective can mention too that he advised me in order for it to look better as if I can volunteer myself to go get mental health, and I did, which involved me. I wasn't forward or anything like that. I went to Trust Point, got back on my medications and my therapist, and my medications have been helping me tremendously.
Did you lie to the officers that responded initially? Did you lie to the officers about how the firearm discharged?
It wasn't intentional. Again, it was more of a fear aspect.
Did you tell them it fell out of the car and discharged?
I did, but it was more about a fear because so many people was there. And then that's when they told me it would be in my best interest. And I explained to them the situation, and I was truthful and honest with everything that occurred. You can ask any agency. I don't have a lying bone in my body. I have a family of my own that I raise to ensure that lying is not written. I've never lied in my entire life. It was more out of fear than anything what would happen. And fear should be frowned upon when someone's experiencing that mental crisis that I've been fighting for quite some time. And now finally got the truth out of what's been going on with it.
Commissioner Wilbur, I commend you for getting mental health treatment and for talking about it openly. I think it needs to occur on a more frequent basis. You have said a couple times that you would be willing to have your post-commission suspended until you are in a better mental place.
Yes, ma'am, because I'm losing a house right now and I'm trying to get residency. And I just want to make sure my family's taken care of.
How far away do you think you are from being back to being an officer, like ready?
With the letters that I provided you, my counselor thinks that I can go back into it, and my behavioral health specialist believes that I'm taking accountability of my actions, which I have. She can vouch for me. I've been attending her counseling sessions. This is count as one of those sessions. And the medication I'm on doesn't hinder me from doing my job.
I'm hearing you say that you can do your job now,
I can do my job in general. I yes.
but you're also willing to suspend it while you work on your mental health. I'm just trying to
Just to make sure that my living organization's taken care of before I jump into something and let other stressors get involved in my work. I want to ensure that all that's taken care of before I can move on and continue on my career. Because my long-term goal is to work for federal law enforcement. If my certification gets suspended or revoked, there's that opportunity is out the water, as I wanted to be a U.S. Marshal.
Commissioner Beverly, I commend you on the work that you've done, and you're right that in our field, it is sometimes stigmatized, but that is changing. However, I'm looking at this in two different approaches. One, the mental health issue and the work you're doing there, but also you said out of fear, you were not truthful with the deputy. It concerns me that what happens when in the field, when you're in fear again, and we have to count on you to tell us the truth about what happened.
Right.
And what I mean by that is investigation, what you saw,
Right.
those types of things. It's very concerning.
Right.
And I understand why you did that, but the truthfulness is key here.
Right. And there's numbers that I provided you from when I worked in Macon County. Those are high numbers in a short period of time, showcasing my ability of doing my job. 655 times calls for service, 23 citations, 24 arrests. And I've just been on the force for about 2 years.
I can commend that. I'm also a street officer as well, so I see where you're coming from on that. Let me finish.
I'm sorry.
There's a degree of integrity compromising here, and that's what we have to look at.
I understand.
Commissioner Lane, how long have you been in law enforcement?
2 years, sir. I got my certification through the Trooper Academy back in 2022, I'm sorry.
So you talked about incidents, leading to trauma and those kinds of things. So in 2 years, you never come out and said it, but you're experiencing trauma from things that you've seen.
Yes.
And did you ever go to any supervisor and explain to them that you?
I have, the instance that occurred was while my FTO was with me, as a trooper. Then the incident that occurred as a Macon County Sheriff's Deputy, I was by myself. I arrived on scene. TBI and everyone else showed up. And like I said, me having a child myself and seeing a dead infant right there. I ended up talking to Chief. I was always going to him. I've tried to, at that point, try to find resources. I didn't have the insurance that would afford it or any place. Most counselors don't take insurance unless you pay up front. I didn't have, and the pay that I was receiving at the time, I wasn't making it in order to get that help. So I attempted at that point. Then my fiance, where she's an LPN, she's been my rock. She's been the one that's been helping me get through all that. And again, where I was in fear of getting help itself, I was in fear of losing my job because of it. And where it's so stigmatized, I was just hesitant because of that fear.
Did you corrected your statement that day, that moment before you left the scene?
Yes.
What you told them?
Yes, because again, it was out of fear because there's so many people, the incident that was going on. I didn't know what would happen. I just wanted to get help at that point. At that point, I knew that I needed help. I needed to take care of it. And I feel that me taking that courageous journey, doing that, should be frowned upon.
What's your Department of Work history like?
As far as, can you relate that?
Disciplinary.
Trooper, as far as I know, disciplinary, with Macon County, trying to think. I was, gave a verbal warning for my driving capabilities at that point, for Macon County. I was driving back and forth from Putnam County to, Macon County. They provided me a vehicle. There was 2 instances where I hit a deer. There was a time when I was driving into Macon County from Putnam County. Supposedly,
You're saying man of traffic, any other issue?
My daughter's mother.
Have you been charged with truthfulness or?
No, nothing like that.
Suspected of that?
Nothing like that, no, sir.
Commissioner Wright, so you originally started as a trooper,
Yes,
graduated in 2022.
yes, sir.
Then you left there and went to work.
I enlisted in the military at that point. I was at my end of my FTO phase at that point. I enlisted as an infantryman. Then I'm transferring over to an MP company for military police MOS. Then I came back and I had to restart my whole FTO process. And at that point in my head, I felt that was waste of their time and money. So I went back to what I knew about more, was more of the county. And I felt that I wasn't ready for that high level of law enforcement at that point. So I took the initiative to resign on good terms. So then I went up working for Macon County for almost a year. With those numbers for Macon County, that should demonstrate my ability of working as a law enforcement officer. My biggest case that I had was a incident involving a arson. The guy was charged for it and he wasn't supposed to be living in that house and his bond was $50,000. That's one of my biggest arrests since then.
Commissioner Wright, I'm kind of like Commissioner Lane. So I wrote down here and quoted that you said over time, the instances that you've been in over time, and at this point, call it 3 years, 2 years of law enforcement or 3, which you're going to call it, it's still relatively a short period of time of what you could and could potentially see going forward. And I mean, I do have some concern about things that you'll see in the future that potentially, even if you got your behavioral health under control now, to relapse, to cause it to relapse again in the future, because there's a lot of things that you'll see in a long professional career that's going to stick in their mind. I have several. I can only imagine, like Commissioner Lane, with 30 years, 38 years in law enforcement, of the images and things that he still has in his mind. Well, with these others that have been law enforcement officers a long time, there's a lot of things yet that would still be coming at you. That's the one thing that's weighing heavy on me right now, is if you'd be able to handle that. Now, if we're talking about an agreeing to a suspension until, I don't know, that may be something we might be able to talk out as the commission side, could we come up with something there again to, if you got hired by a department later on, obviously this is going to be noted and we've had to have a psych and all that, hopefully again done. What could we potentially do?
If I may speak.
Go ahead.
I had another agency recently just called me. They wanted me to have an interview tomorrow. I explained to them truthfully on what was going on. They thanked me for advising them on what was going on before anything happened later on. So there's an opportunity for me to get employment.
So, but you're saying that you're willing to take a suspension to get everything straightened out, but yet you have a job interview tomorrow. And you're ready to go right back to work. So I guess to me, that's a little confusing. Like you're talking about, you're willing to get to voluntarily suspend your post commission, but yet you got an interview tomorrow.
I'm sorry. Let me sorry for the confusion on that. I'm going to also advise him as well. I told them I would give them a call, what happens, either way. I'm gonna end up taking a break anyways, like I said, because I'm trying to get a residency. I want my kids to have a roof over their head. So I want to take some time to gather things up and get them straightened out as family matters to me over my career. Because I was taking them first over anything. I just want to ensure that everything else is taken care of before I have to move on into my career.
Commissioner Beverly, was there a scenario that you were going to take the interview tomorrow? That you were going to do the interview tomorrow with that law enforcement agency?
If I decided to, I probably won't. Like I said, I want to take some time away from that interview. I want to take some time away to get things collected, get things taken care of for my family before I can jump into that. Reason why they got back to me is because before all this happened, it was last year that I applied, and they were trying to scramble up some scheduling. So they've not contacted me since then till now. And I explained to them that, you know, what's going on here. And my thing is that I want to take the time off to get my family taken care of, to get myself taken care of before I can move on.
Did you decline the interview, or are you going to have to cancel when you walk out of here?
I declined it. I want to
You
decline it.
did decline it, or
You're going to.
I'm going to decline it.
is it currently scheduled for tomorrow?
No, it's not scheduled for tomorrow. He called me and I explained to him and he,
Was not scheduled.
no, I declined it.
This is Commissioner Green. I'm going to ask a really hard question.
Yes, sir.
What was your intention when you discharged that weapon?
What was my intention?
Yes, sir. Was it for self-harm?
Like I said,
You're having to think about it, so I'm assuming that's probably in the affirmative.
I had been fighting demons for over a year.
So that would be an affirmative. You went and saw the mental health professional after you were terminated.
Yes, that day, that specific day when that incident occurred, I
How
went.
many visits did you have with the doctor that wrote your, I don't need to ask her, I'm asking you. How many visits did you have with her prior to that, her writing that letter in December? Yeah, I mean, how many visits did you have with her? She wrote the letter December 27th, I think's the date. How many visits did you have with her?
I had, one wasn't from her, one was from another one where I attempted.
How many visits did
I'm
you
sorry.
have with that professional for her before she wrote the letter?
7. About 7.
Do you not think that this job is going to get more stressful the more you are in it, the
Yes.
longer you're there?
Yes, sir.
Do you really think that everybody should be a law enforcement officer? Are there some people that just aren't able to do the job?
I mean, I believe there's within reason that they shouldn't be, yes, but like.
Do you think mentally unable to handle the stress of the job is a precursor for not being in this job? That's why you take a psychological coming into the profession.
Yes. Like the psych tests that I've taken before, I've not had any issues before.
But you've had issues since, right? That's why you're going to mental health professional now.
What do you mean by, like, I'm sorry?
You said you've had trauma since you came into law enforcement.
Not since I came in law enforcement. I've been fighting trauma for about you said since I come in law enforcement, like when I was a trooper?
You said you saw a
Yes,
infant.
yes, I saw that, yes.
You've been exposed to things that
Yes.
created more stress because of the mental issues you have now.
Well, it's not only just that, there's other things on top of it that I've been dealing with. I have a daughter that is 5 years old. She's going back and forth between homes. My daughter's mother and I have different parenting styles
So you're still experiencing mental stress.
because of my, it's
It doesn't matter why, you're still experiencing mental stress.
not right now, no.
I mean, and also I think it's worth noting for the commissioners, I mean, we're talking about an incident that occurred December 1 of 2024.
Right.
Yes,
So that's less than 2 months ago.
okay.
And yet you need some time off, but then you're going to think about going to work somewhere else. Seems you have a hard time giving a straight answer
No,
to this commission.
no, I don't want
Well-
to work right now. That's the thing. It's just that,
I mean, you're having a hard time giving straight answers to the commissioners.
it's because
And-
I'm sorry, I'm just stressed. this whole situation. It's just with his statement, I want to take some time away from it so that way I can get everyone else and myself taken care of. I get in the job in itself, it's stressful. I've not had any issues up until those experiences. Like I said, I've been fighting this for over a year now. I've been reluctant to talk to people because that's how I was raised. Talking to people about it was just disregarded. And finally, I've got that resources that I needed. At that point in time in that incident, I knew right then and there that I needed to take care of myself. Yes, they called me for an interview, but I declined it because I wanted to take care of myself. That was after the application I put in last year. They were going to interview me last year before this happened. Then I told them that I couldn't at the time to have an interview because I was going for another interview at that point as well, within that same week. So then a year later, they called me again, wanted to ask for an interview, and I declined because I want to take care of myself.
Commissioner Lane, I got one thing I want to add to this. Commissioner Wright and Commissioner Green both have laid out some things for you. And you made a statement a little while ago about the stigmatism. If this would have been 1988 when I started, that would have been a much truer statement. I mean, it was. It rubbed some dirt on it and move on. The law enforcement today is totally different than it was in 80, 87, 88 in those time frames. I think you definitely need to look at, you're 2 years into the job and you're kind of going back and forth about what's actually causing your stress. Okay, if you're already dealing with things outside of the job, and then you come into a high stress environment for your family, for yourself, that's something we need to really look at. Because it's only going to get, you're going to see more things. Like, May for me will be 38 years. And I can tell you, you're going to see them over and over. And so that's something you need to consider moving forward, regardless of what happens here today. Okay, not only for you, I get it. I love being a cop. I haven't loved every day being a cop. Right? Anybody that's done the job will tell you there's tough days. And having that support system outside is vitally important. And so you got to know going into it that you're going to see those things. That's why we do what we do. So, there's nobody in this room that wants bad for you, okay? But we have a job to do and make sure that you're protected as well as those that you could potentially work for. So that's something that you really need to look at moving forward, because it's obvious you're under some intense, you've mentioned stress multiple times in this hearing today. And this is a matter of routine at this point. I mean, really, I know you're a lot's on the line here, but at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you and your family are taken care of. And I'm not, this is only going to get, it's not what you've seen in 2 years. That isn't the end of it.
And again, to caveat off that, sir, it's just, I've never had that support system growing up. I was living in a split home myself, as my daughter is doing. And it's just, I've never had that going forth through my entire life. Up until that incident, at that point, I knew that I needed to take care of what needs to be taken care of.
Commissioner Beverly, kind of walk me through the timetable of that agency that reached out to you. When did they reach out to you most recently to try to get you interviewed and start their hiring process?
They called because where I recently put in an application before.
When's recently?
Last year, it was around, I can't remember, I think it was sometime in October, if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on that. At that point, they were having some tight scheduling because of budgeting at that fiscal year at that point. Then When they called me at that point, I wasn't able to meet because I had other interviews lined up that week. So then he said he would give me a call back. He didn't call me back within that time frame of that year. So 2 days ago, then they called me and wanted to set up an interview, and I declined. And I explained to them this situation, that I just want to ensure that I want to get myself right, get my family right, as I'm also losing a home, trying to get that taken care of.
If you don't mind asking, what agency was that?
It was all good police department.
Okay.
I know,
You're not having to walk out of here and cancel an interview tomorrow?
well, cancel interview tomorrow.
Are you going to have to walk out of here and cancel an interview for tomorrow? No?
So I canceled it by bill on the spot. I told them exactly what was going on for today. And I will call them and let them know what's going on. If they want to see forth moving forward on doing an interview with me.
So when you call them, they may invite you for an interview. If you were to walk out of here with your certification intact.
If they do, I'm just going to decline it till I can. I want to ensure my family has a home and make sure everything is taken care of before I can move on into anything else.
It's just concerning the fact that this was an incident involving a firearm, that you were untruthful with the deputies that responded, have a hard time giving answers to some of these commissioners. This goes back not 30 years, it goes back, this incident goes back to December 1 of last year of 2024.
Yes, sir.
We're less than 2 months out from this.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Wright, I'm still, let me get a timeline here. So we left the highway patrol in 02. Then we went to Jackson County Sheriff.
2000.
I mean, 2002, I'm sorry. That was my year. Again, I know you wouldn't in my class, but 2022. Then you went to Jackson County Sheriff's Department.
Macon County,
So when did you leave Macon County and go to Jackson County?
July, I'll say July the 11th.
And now while you're employed at Jackson County, you had talked to Allgood about in October while you're still working for Jackson County. So at that point, it was Highway Patrol, Macon County, Jackson County, and talking to other agencies as well. Why the department hopping?
Sir, I want to clarify, he was hired in November
Yes,
of 2024. And this, at the end of November 2024, and this incident happened less than 2 weeks on actual patrol.
Okay, that clears a little bit of that. Yeah.
yes.
Mr. Carter, Mr. Johnson, you're in the military, correct?
Yes, sir.
And did you say you was in the?
I was I enlisted as an infantryman. Now I'm transferring my MOS as military police.
Okay, so your PTSD occurred, you had into law enforcement or while you're in the military? Trying to set up a timeline here, when you developed your PTSD.
Now, though, that's what I was just referencing. I was just referencing from what I've researched about what law enforcement general experiences and when it comes to mental health, how they are covered through the ADA. I was diagnosed with major depression.
Okay, so the 2 years that you've been in law enforcement, that's what the experience is.
I just experienced the major depression.
Okay. You know, some of us can process things a lot better. I've been in this business for 39 years. And I'm going to agree. Sometimes law enforcement is not for the individual. But I've got another question. When you discharged your firearm, did you get help before or after you discharged your firearm?
That day I got help, but before then I tried to get help because I was experiencing mental health issues at that point, but I couldn't afford it because my insurance wouldn't cover it and I didn't have enough money to afford it. So I was having hard times finding help. And that day when I was offered that help to go seek help, I took that advantage so that way I can finally get everything covered. The military's covering my counseling and everything.
Okay, but you're not the department have some sort of EAP program to kind of get you started?
I'm not for sure on what they have as far as that. I know they have health insurance and dental, we just got dental. I know from when I was trooper, when the state of Tennessee, they did have that. For Jackson County, I'm not for sure on either or counties, Macon or Jackson County, if they had that. That wasn't brought to my attention as far as that aspect. I was just told that day it would be in my best interest to go get help, where that way it will showcase that I'm willing to put my foot forward, get things taken care of. And I did that day.
Thank you. Commissioner Beverly, I guess get the agency back up, see if you have anything you want to add. Which is just, what's come out since we step
Yeah.
out at least.
Mr. Johnson referenced the Americans with Disabilities Act as far as not discriminated against them. I wanted to be clear, my agency did not terminate Mr. Johnson for his mental health issues. My agency terminated Mr. Johnson for his false statement to a police officer on scene and for discharging a firearm outside the course of his duty. I just thought that should be clear. I advised Mr. Johnson on scene that if he was battling PTSD or demons or whatever he was battling at the time, it would probably be in his best interest to seek out mental health at that time. For his safety and the safety of the people around him, him. That's how the mental health aspect came up. And I believe my sheriff would stand by me when I say that. And we were never made aware that he had mental issues, that he needed to seek out counseling in the short span of time that he was with our agency. I mean, we're talking a matter of 2 weeks, flash to bang.
So the concern for the Jackson County Sheriff's Office, sir, the concern for the agency and the reason for seeking the decertification is the discharge of the firearm and lying to another law enforcement agency about the discharge of that firearm.
Yes. I mean, we can go into the mental health aspect, him going into all good, we'd be concerned for citizens, because if that was something, a stressor on a high intensity call, what's going to be the course of action on that type of call, and that's what my sheriff was concerned about, why we went that day to retrieve our county property from him. So.
Any further questions from the commissioners? Statements or discussion?
Commissioner Wright. As the detective said, I mean, the reasons for decertification is the untruthfulness to another police officer, the violation of the policy of discharge of firearm. And it's come to light in all that, the behavioral health aspect behind that, which also brings in other concerns. If you took the mental health out of it, would we still, what would we do just for discharge of a firearm against the policy of departmental policy and the untruthfulness to police officers? And we all know that we take truthfulness very serious. The mental health aspect of it, I say that's a different piece. I feel like this is probably, we go down this road with just those two in play, but also when I add in there the mental health aspect of it, I do have grave concerns about future incidents that could come to light if we were back on patrol somewhere and for the citizens, for fellow officers, for himself, for his own family. And as bad as some people may want to be law enforcement, sometimes it's just not in their best interest to be law enforcement. Unfortunately, I think this is one of those cases. So I'm gonna make the motion to approve the decertification.
Commissioner Beverly, second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Any further discussion amongst the commissioners? Hearing none, we'll take the vote. The motion is to approve the request for decertification. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Hearing none, motion carries. Investigator Creed will tell you what the next step is. All right, Tennessee Department of Safety. We'll go ahead and call you all up in the first situation with Justin Murphy. Mr. Murphy was submitted for decertification based on his termination. I know we are familiar, it's a familiar face at the podium. Sir, if you would, just for the record, give us your name and position and tell us why the Department of Safety is seeking decertification.
I'm Sergeant Chad Smith. I work for the Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security in the Office of Professional Accountability. Been in that position for 6 years. Current case, Justin Murphy was a trooper at the time. He was going through the field training officer program. And his termination recommendation was based on deficiencies in officer safety, problem-solving, decision-making skills, honesty, and integrity. And to put this in brief, on July 21st, 2024, while he was in the field training program, he was called to answer, while on call, he was called at 3 a.m. in the morning. He did not answer his phone. He was being called out for a fatal crash. Another trooper had to go to his house to wake him, go on that call. Again, this was while he was on his FTO program. Additionally, that was on July 21st. Additionally, on July 29th, his FTO asked him if he had checked his radar and his camera system prior to going in service. Trooper Murphy stated that he had. His FTO noticed the rear camera was powered off and Trooper Murphy's body camera was not connected. When questioned, Trooper Murphy admitted that he did not check the radar and camera system as required, and admitted being, thus admitting to being untruthful. On August 1st, 2024, he was at the firing range and was observed and corrected twice for unsafe firearm handling. Both instances involved his finger being on the trigger during magazine changes. On August 5th, while still on the FTO program, he was a review of his video camera activity revealed that he was recorded speeding twice, going to and from duty assignments. When that camera was activated, he turned off the camera to stop the recordings. On August 22nd, 2024, a citizen called regarding a trooper's vehicle parked in a handicapped parking space at a Chick-fil-A restaurant in Jackson, Tennessee. The investigation revealed that was Trooper Murphy's vehicle. He had parked his car in the space, and when questioned why he did that, he stated that he was in a hurry. On August 28th, September 1st and September 2nd, supervisors had documented occasions where Trooper Murphy had failed to submit reports as directed. On September 24th, Trooper Murphy began phase 4 of his FTO program. During this phase of training, he was expected to perform 100% of the tasks required while being observed by his FTO. On September 27th, 2024, a lieutenant received a memo detailing actions at the Jackson THB headquarters. Trooper Murphy had brought his duty rifle to a lieutenant there for a sling installation. Upon receiving the rifle inside the headquarters, they noticed that the magazine was inserted, the bolt was forward, and a bullet was chambered. All of these actions was observed while he was in his FTO program and on probation and as a probationary employee. And due to these various and numerous instances, he was terminated.
Commissioner Wilbur, I think I know the answer, but how fast does one have to be driving for the in-dash camera to activate? What speed?
I believe it's 90 miles an hour.
Commissioner Wright, Sergeant, was this a cadet or was this a lateral transfer? Or do you,
I'm not for sure on that.
we'll ask him.
Can you check that?
We have highway patrol, this is only agency, who paid us.
Yeah, it would be in the pre-employment packet if there was any documentation showing that he was trying to lateral certification from another state. I'm not seeing anything. Looks like he did complete a THP Basic Academy, not a lateral program.
Any other questions from the commissioners for the Department of Safety? See you again here in just a few minutes if we don't call you back up for this one.
Yes.
Mr. Murphy? You step up to the podium. You would, for the record, identify yourself with your name and tell us your side of this.
Yes, sir. Justin Murphy. I graduated academy and I was number one. I did have some small errors. I don't. Which one do you want me to respond to first? I know it's.
Just respond to. Tell us your side of this. Whatever you want the commission to know.
Yes, sir. I addressed the speeding part first. I drove a hybrid. Yeah, it's not gas, sir. So a lot of times, if you're trying to turn around. Like I was just usually going home, for instance. In order to get home, I get on the expressway, I'll merge onto the expressway. You probably don't get in Jackson right down I-40, you probably don't get up to it's too late to slow. That's probably when the cameras cut on now. They talk to me and they ask me not to turn the camera off. I do not turn the camera off. I told them that I do remember that the camera does record 30 seconds prior to. So it was always shown what happened, why the camera cut off. I didn't turn it off to hide anything. The speeding didn't happen after that. So if I leave something out, just tell me. I'll go to the rifle thing. I came back to the district for the final phase. I inspect my weapons, but I didn't inspect them every single day. I know that he wanted to do an inspection. He came out there and then he wanted to put a rifle sling in there. I came inside for him to do that, but he was at the door. I didn't look at the rifle to see what it was. I just handed it to him because my mind was there and I wasn't trying to be unsafe. I wasn't. He noticed it was there and he asked me had it been there this whole time like that. I told him, yes, sir. So it was around in the chamber and it was on the safe. Didn't intentionally do that. Can't remember. Well, I'll go back and the deficiencies noted part. They allowed me to do 4 phase again after that, but it was in another county. I was normally in Jackson County, Madison County, I'm sorry, in Jackson, Tennessee. But I had never worked in this county before. Didn't know anything about it. Other MTOs allowed me to use GPS to know where I was. When they gave me the opportunity to do 4 phase again after the safety violation, it's supposed to be 100% yes. So that means that I should be able to use my GPS. Or if I had any questions, I should have been able to phone a friend. I wasn't able to do none of that. And I'm not here to tell y'all to speak better on about it. I'm just here to answer your questions. Of course, it looked like it was 100% because a lot of things I knew and a lot of things I may have not been able to go through yet. I didn't get the chance to experience it yet. Some other people on FTO experienced more than I did. So if I had a question about something like what I would do on a crash or something, I tried to call someone and they noticed that. So failed. I don't know what other questions you have.
Commissioner Wright, I'll go here for a moment. As you heard, honesty from the last one weighs very heavily on this commission. Why did you lie to Trooper Smith about checking your radar and your camera when you had not?
So when I was in the academy, I think we had we didn't have a lot of time on them teaching us as far as how to operate the camera. They told us, but it wasn't like as if you could remember. So I did what I remember. So the back camera, the only thing I knew about it was if you put someone in the back of the vehicle, then you got to operate the back camera. I thought it was already operating. I didn't tell them a lie. I mean, I thought at the time that's what my intention, that's what I meant. I didn't tell them a lie and say I did it or I didn't do it. I was checking my equipment the way that I was shown to do it. So I said, if I may add, I didn't probably get shown how to do the equipment check until third phase, I believe.
Did you get shown how to use turning forks on your radar, front of your radar?
In the fourth phase, yes, the proper way I did.
They didn't teach you that at the academy at all?
So we went over it and not an excuse, but things that you have to remember, I had to remember a lot. So as far as the tuning forks go, I didn't remember it properly. But they showed me.
So that day when you told you had done it, you knew that you had not done it.
Well, he pulled out the tuning forks, so he put out the tuning forks for the back in the review, but I hadn't been probably shown how to use the back yet. So I didn't check the back. So that's a lie. If I didn't check the back, I didn't know.
Commissioner Green, are you want to stay in law enforcement?
Yes, sir, I am.
In what capacity do you feel like you best fit? Because evidently it's not highway patrol.
Sir, I agree. I ain't gonna sit there and tell you, I do want to try highway patrol again. I'm listening. They've been highway patrol for a long time. Some people manage it well, but I'm not.
Commissioner Wilbur, says on August 5th, Lieutenant Charles Forsyth and others met with you to talk about General Order 555 and said they would talk to you about it the next day. And that the next day you still did not know Order 555. Can you explain why you did not know that when you were going to be questioned about that the next day?
They didn't actually the next day. I ended up having to go to Wheaton County somewhere else. So I think they asked whoever I was with FTO and they asked him and I related to him. I wasn't at the district team next day. We talked about that. I remember that.
But someone asked you about General Order.
Yes, ma'am.
And you didn't know that.
No, ma'am, I ain't gonna tell you no, because I knew about it the day that the FTO got into it.
And well, this specifically says you failed to have a working knowledge of the general order when I asked him about simple elements of radar operations. So you did not know at that phase in your training about simple radar operation?
No, ma'am.
What I'm hearing is mostly that it's your trainer's fault and not your fault. I just want you to know how that's coming across to this commission.
No, I'm gonna accept accountability. I should have known it. I'm not telling you that it's their fault. You say that, but it's my fault that I didn't know 511. That's my fault. When he asked me when I came back to the district and we talked about it, I didn't know that they was gonna say that I didn't know it. I didn't know when he asked me on him.
What about parking in a handicap spot? Tell us about that situation.
Yes, sir. So at the time, I was not in Mexican. I was FTO in Wheaton County. I got a cousin that worked in Chick-fil-A. And I told her I was trying to hurry to get on the side of town. She wanted to get some food. I came over there, got food. Line was long. I didn't want to sit in the drive-thru. She said, "Go here." And just, I should have known not to do that, but I did go into it. I told them I did that.
How do you think that reflects on the Tennessee Highway Patrol when you park a marked cruiser in a handicap spot? Tell, in your words, how do you think that affects the Tennessee Highway Patrol?
Not good, sir. In my words.
What do you think it makes people think about law enforcement?
That we abuse our authority.
Mr. Lane, what phase in your FTO program did they talk to you about the potential where you said you had checked your equipment and you didn't, the potential for truthfulness there? What phase?
I was with Alex Smith in the second phase.
Second phase.
Yes,
So
sir.
was there ever an internal affairs investigation or any kind of investigation, disciplinary action for truthfulness?
I signed a video and it was about body cam footage. Because on my first week of FTO, I had the camera on because I just didn't know when to not have it on. So they were going over that and they had me sign a video. And that's the only thing I know. Never got rolled up.
But there was never any investigation regarding your performance. They allowed you to continue on in your training program after they talked to you about that.
They brought me into the conference and we talked about it. I don't know what
But you continued in the training program is what I'm getting at. They didn't stop your training at that point and say you violated something, a policy or anything that would require your termination from the program.
If after the rifle incident, I think I was at home for about 3 to 4 days. That's the only time. That was in phase 4.
Okay. So you continued on after the incident.
Yes, sir.
Reference as far as truthfulness.
Sir.
I guess where I'm going is they didn't stop you when they said that you weren't truthful about checking your equipment. They allowed you to continue on in that process.
Yes, sir. They allowed me to.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Wright, when you was in the academy, was you required to have all your general order signed before you was able to graduate?
Yes, sir, we were.
When you was in the academy, did you go out with anybody to do radar?
We had a day. Yes, sir.
You did have a day, went out?
Yes, sir.
You spent time with the trooper actually running radar. You had to guess vehicle speeds and be within 5 miles an hour, all that kind of good stuff. And all that was well prior to the FTO.
Yes, sir.
With the FTO.
Yes, sir.
Did the guy that you rode with that day, when you was doing that, did he not go over the proper use of the radar, how the radar works, how you're supposed to verify it for each day?
I'm trying to remember when the incident occurred, what phase it was, but.
Well, that would have been while you're still in the academy.
I think so. While I was in the academy, so I'll go over how it was. We all got in the van, and we rode down the street, and they showed us how to check for speeders, what you have to do before you get into it. That's what we went over. Something we didn't do the rear. The rear is what I had a problem with.
What was different about the rear facing radar than the forward facing radar?
Well, I know you're tracking for whoever's speeding behind you. So I just didn't know how to hold the forks. I was doing it improperly. I'm doing it right. I'm holding it right.
Well, you do that the same in the front as you do in the back. You just have the radar, one for the front and one for the back. It's still stationary because you was not trained in moving radar, correct?
I just didn't do it the standard that they wanted to do it. Yes, sir.
Commissioner Wilbur, I just have one more question. On October 2nd, it said you were observed speeding at 99 miles an hour. I said that you had a low tire and you were going to retrieve your own air pump at the residence. Was that the truth?
That was the truth, yes, ma'am.
Did you turn off your in-dash camera when it clicked on when you went over 90 miles an hour?
Yes, I did.
Why?
Because I know that if it's going to get 30 seconds prior, you're going to see exactly. That's why.
Commissioner Wright, I'm gonna ask a follow-up on that. So where did you think it was a good idea
for your safety and for the public safety, for you to be running 99 miles an hour on a low tire.
Yes, sir. So I went across the median where it allows us to turn at. I think it was like, and it was in the morning time. I was just trying to make sure traffic. I did not intentionally go 99 miles an hour. By the time I slowed down, it was too late. That's what happened.
So after all your training, you don't know how fast you're going when you're driving on the highway?
No, so it's not easy to, it's a hybrid. I know.
I have a fully electric car, and I know exactly how fast I'm going.
So I didn't,
It
yes,
don't matter.
ma'am. So I was just trying to mess with traffic. That day, I was trying to blend in with traffic. And I saw the trooper there. And I also saw that he was getting ready to pull something. So I was getting out of the airway too. I wasn't just speeding down the street purposely, just trying to make a turnaround.
What does the law say for, when you exceed the speed limit? Like what allows you to exceed the speed limit?
What emergency zone?
TCA 55-8-108.
Yes, sir.
So lights and what?
Sorry, sir.
Do you have either one of those activated?
No, sir. No. Yes, sir. It was a mistake. I didn't intentionally do that.
Seem to have reached some lull in the discussion. So any further questions? Any discussion? Anyone have a motion?
Commissioner Wilbur, motion to approve.
Commissioner Wilbur, motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Commissioner Beverly, second.
Commissioner Beverly seconds the motion to approve. Any further discussion? Take the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Hearing none. Motion carries. Investigator will tell you what the next steps are. Tennessee Department of Safety, Matthew Spencer. Mr. Spencer was submitted for decertification based on his termination. And I know we just went through this, but if you would, tell us for the record your name and position and proceed.
I'm Sergeant Chad Smith with Tennessee Department of Safety and Homeland Security. I work in the Department's Office of Professional Accountability. The matter before us was Trooper Matthew Spencer. Matthew Spencer was terminated while he was on probation. He had graduated the academy, and my understanding was working as a Tennessee State Trooper at the time of the termination. He began with the department on January the 29th of 2023. On March 7th, 2024, Matthew Spencer was involved in a pursuit in which he violated policy as detailed. He failed to notify in the pursuit, while pursuing, he failed to notify anyone that he was in pursuit. And when questioned by the on-duty supervisor and dispatch, he denied being in pursuit even after pursuing the vehicle for several miles at a high rate of speed, which was in violation of the department's general order. After conducting an after-action review with him to go over the issues discovered in the pursuit, to try to help him improve in those areas, he failed to understand that he had exposed himself and the department to unnecessary civil liability by not following policy. Trooper Spencer admitted that he became confused during the pursuit and could not process the information correctly, which led to his misrepresentation of facts to a supervisor. Trooper Spencer never comprehended that legally he was in pursuit. On a separate incident, May 9th of 2024, a complainant contacted the Office of Professional Accountability to file a complaint regarding an inappropriate relationship between his wife and Trooper Spencer. The complainant alleged that Trooper Spencer had been sending explicit photos, videos, and text messages to his wife, and that his wife admitted to having sex with Trooper Spencer. When interviewed by OPA investigators, the wife confirmed that she and Trooper Spencer had sex. Her statement was found to be credible because there was no personal gain for her to misrepresent the facts. During his interview with OPA investigators, Trooper Spencer admitted to transmitting pictures and videos and acknowledged he knew she was married, but denied having sex with her. That brought into question his overall truthfulness and credibility in that case. A separate incident, on June 16th, 2024, Trooper Spencer was involved in the use of force incident where it was determined that there was no probable cause for the initial traffic stop that he conducted. If the correct application of the law had been used, this incident would not have occurred, therefore reducing the department's potential liability in the use of force and safeguarding it against litigation. Even after the numerous attempts by supervisors to rectify his deficiencies, both through formal and informal discussions, Trooper Spencer failed to understand his shortcomings. Moreover, his poor decisions, poor judgment, and lack of credibility indicate that he did not possess the required skills for to be a Tennessee State Trooper. As a result, while on probation, he was terminated.
Questions for the Tennessee Highway Patrol?
Commissioner Wilbur, on the March 7th incident, did he have his lights and sirens running in this pursuit that he did not know was a pursuit?
Don't have that noted in this report. I can look and try to find that out for you.
Thank you.
Sergeant, he was a cadet, graduated. Did he graduate or?
Yes.
What was the deal on the January 29th, 2023? What was that thing?
That's when he began work with the department. I think that's when he started the academy, I believe.
Okay, so then do you have when he came off his FTO program?
I don't have that in front of me, no, sir. But in the first incident on March 7th, he was off the FTO program.
How long is the FTO program? If they don't have any remedial or anything?
It's various phases, and I'm, to be honest, I can't answer that question.
I was just trying to establish how long he'd been a trooper alone.
I believe he was also a former law enforcement officer, and I believe he was a trooper in Alabama. So he was, I believe in this incident, he was a lateral.
Thank you. How long is the state probationary period?
A year and 6 months for a trooper. Normal state employees are 1 year, but they take into account the additional training that the troopers have to endure and provide the extra 6 months.
I mean, this was a pretty busy 4 months out of that year and 6 months for the trooper question here. I mean, it's a lot of things negative
that are surfacing
in a 4 month period. In a 4 month period,
especially with a lateral that you would think already has an appearance as a law enforcement officer.
So he was a trooper in Alabama?
I believe so, yes.
So, I mean, it's not unreasonable to think that somebody was a state trooper somewhere else if they would understand what a vehicle pursuit is.
Correct.
Cadis has a note that he went he graduated the Alabama Criminal Justice Training Center on April 18th, 2019. And then when he started at the Tennessee Highway Patrol, that was still a current certification. He started at the Tennessee Highway Patrol on 1/29 of 23.
Questions for the Department of Safety. Thank you, sir. We may call you back up.
And just regarding her question of the lights and siren, and I'm looking through the documents, but I'm sorry, but I can't answer that question for you.
Thank you. Mr. Spencer. You would just for the record state your name and give your side of this.
Matthew Spencer. Want to talk about the pursuit incident. It was a thing like I was going on my 3 days off. I take
care of my mom. That's one of the reasons why I moved to Tennessee, because she had cancer. So we had been looking at stuff here. That was one of the reasons why I moved here. So I have been flying back and forth to Detroit, checking on her, just checking on her. Ended up calling out one of the days, and it was a thing with my supervisors, like, hey, you guys are getting 3 days off. You guys have been 3 days off. You don't need to be, calling out. You need to come in and work your 4 days. So I did end up calling out one day, and just letting letting my supervisor know what was going on. And I told my mom, I was like, Mom, I'm gonna, get back. And she was just like, don't leave. So at that particular time, when I got into that pursuit, it was a midnight shift. I didn't fly back I didn't get back into Tennessee until 6. That shift started at 8. So once I got off the airplane, got an Airbnb, not an Airbnb, Uber, got back to my apartment, got dressed. When I got dressed, I was working in Murfreesboro. I stay in Nashville. So that's another 45-minute drive without the traffic, maybe an hour just to get to the county line. So when I'm working at night, it was about 3, 4 a.m. I'm exhausted. I attempt to stop a car. The charger ended up getting over like he was getting off on the shoulder. And he never stopped. He just kept going. So, I call up on the radio, like I said, just tired. And, just let him know what was going on. And it was like, hey, on pursuit. And I'm like, well, he did try to stop. I don't know. Working with law enforcement in 7 years. I'm thinking like a lot of people like, well, I didn't want to stop on the side of the interstate. I wanted to get off on the exit. And I've had several stops like that.
Commissioner Beverly, I guess the stops you had, like what speed after you thought he was pulling over and he got back on the interstate, how fast did you end up going?
Well, he was going over 100.
Okay.
So I ended up, he was going over 100. So I initially had to catch him too. So I was going over 100 as well to catch him. So we ended up getting slowed down as if he was getting off on the shoulder, like I said, on the shoulder. And then he took back off. So mind you, when I called him where I was, it's about a 2 mile difference. I'm getting off on that 840 exit. And by the time they said, are you in pursuit? I'm like, no. Like, I'm not trying to hide anything. I'm exhausted. So by the time another supervisor said, where are the speeds? And I said, over 100. He said, disengage. And that's exactly what I did.
So he was doing 100, you pulled him over, he went onto the shoulder like he was stopping. And then when he got back on the roadway the second time, how fast did he get up to?
He got over 100. And
you thought he was just looking for a safe place to pull over at that point?
Maybe not, no. It's tight.
Yes, moving into the other question. I know they asked you, your department asked you if you had a sexual relationship with a female, and you denied that you stated that was not true. You did not have a sexual relationship with that female. What do you have to say about that?
Okay, touch on that. So me and Ashley were friends, went to the University of Alabama. In 2014, worked together, been friends for a long time. After we all graduated in 2017, she did end up getting married. All right. So I never talked to her ever till December of 2022. Before I even moved up here, I was still technically a trooper. So she texted me like Christmas, hey, Merry Christmas, blase, blase. I thought about you, X, Y, Z. I said, oh, thanks, hope everything was well with you. Merry Christmas, blase, blase, how's everything going? She was like, not so good. I'm in a divorce, and that's what my interpretations was of that situation. So when we were texting and talking, that was not here in Tennessee. That was not here. I wasn't even a commissioned officer here. And when they're saying like I had sex with her, I never had sex with her. She came up here on 2 separate occasions. She came up here in March. She came up here in June for her birthday because our birthday was close.
March and June of which year?
Sorry,
March and June of which year?
2023. So, just like I said, she came up here. Yes, 23. I'm sorry. She came up here on 2 separate occasions, March and June. June is our birthday. So when she came up here in March, I couldn't have done anything with her because my mom was here and I was still moving stuff from Alabama to here.
What about, this says May 9th, 2024. And this says that you sent explicit photos, videos, and text messages to this woman. Is that the truth?
I did send a text message. I did send pictures. I never denied that. But what
Did you deny having sexual relations?
I did not have sex.
But she said you did.
I'm gonna get to the story of that. So of June of her birthday, from the last a couple of days after she was here in Tennessee, I still have the text message. She came back, she went back home, and whoever she was staying with at the time, because they were split up, they were not living in the same house. She told me like he was doing stuff weird, like he tried to take her phone, he was trying to take her keys, he was flattening tires on her car and things like that. So for me, I'm still in my FTO phase. I didn't get on my FTO phase until June, well, the end of June. So she started texting me. I'm in the car with my FTO, so I can't be on. I'm not on the phone texting, talking on the phone, anything like that. So I finally get home. She's like, she's giving me the rundown of, like I said, what's going on, and I'm like, I kind of want to step back away from you. I don't want to deal with this. You know what I'm saying? So I just kind of left her alone. I haven't talked to her that day, but she still finds a way to text my phone. When she texted me 2 weeks ago, telling me, saying pretty much, I know you want me to stay away from you, X, Y, and Z.
Commissioner Beverly, you saw earlier where things were passed around here that were presented, correct? You saw where in previous cases, the trooper presents the text message threads. Is that going to back up your story, or is there anything you want to change?
No. Okay.
Trooper, right, and I apologize for circling around to different topics, but I'm gonna go back and hit a few of the others. First question, tell me a little bit about your Alabama state trooper experience. How long was you a trooper in Alabama?
I was there 3 years.
You was there for 3 years. Any disciplinary action while you was there?
No, sir. Before I started trooper, I was a deputy in my home county.
So when did you begin your law enforcement career? What year?
Here?
No, just in general. Your law enforcement career for you, any state, when did it start?
It started in 2018.
You became a law enforcement officer for the first time when you were 2018.
Well, I started in December of 18, but I didn't graduate the basic police academy until April of 2022.
Few things. So we'll go back to the pursuit side. When you said you called it in, and they were questioning you or whether you was in pursuit or not. So obviously you never told them you was 1099 in pursuit. How did you describe that to the dispatcher, that you was behind a vehicle that was running high rate of speed, tend to pull over and then not? It sounded like everybody knew you was in pursuit except for you.
I just kind of, like I said, I was tired. I was just kind of like up a little bit. And when the car came past me, I just keyed up and sent the tag number. I called for 1081 and stated the tag.
So you called 1081 and the tag, but you had not officially made a traffic stop.
Well, not 1081, I'm sorry. I like saying like I got a vehicle going pretty fast, like This is the tag number.
How did you get the tag number with them running that speed?
I caught up to it.
Okay. You said that you was on the FTO program until the end of June. Was the FTO with you on June 16th when you was involved in the use of force incident to determine, and they determined that there was no probable cause for the traffic stop?
That was a year later.
That was 2024, so you got off the FTO into June of 23.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So tell me about this incident here, which, apparently you made a traffic stop without probable cause and led to improper use.
Okay. So basically, I was downtown by the courthouse in Rutherford County, just sitting there. A car like makes like an illegal turn, but the other car from the other way like keeps going. So I stopped the vehicle. So when I stopped the vehicle, she gets down by, I think it's called Whiskey Dicks or something like that. I'm not sure what she's calling down there. So I made the traffic stop. So she's an Uber driver. So I go up there, you know, courteous, you know, like, hey, I'm Trooper Spencer, Tennessee Highway Patrol, the reason why I pulled you over because you made the proper turn, which was pretty much, I was just doing DUI stops. It was pretty late. So I'm literally gonna give her one anyway if I don't see that she's intoxicated or anything like that. So she starts cussing me out. So at this particular time, Murfreesboro police officers run up on the side of where I'm at. So I'm calling, talking to her like, ma'am, can I get your name, social? Like I'm going through the progressions, the steps. She still cussing me out. So I'm like, hey, you know, if you don't give me some type of form of identification, I'm going to have to arrest you for failure to identify. So I asked her one more time, and she failed to do it again. So I opened the car door. So I go to unbuckle up her seatbelt, and the Murfreesboro police officer snatches by her hair.
So just Commissioner, right? So in your eyes, you made the improper turn. So why would the department, in their review of the case, determine that there was no probable cause for a traffic stop? What led them to come to that conclusion? You know?
Sir, I have no idea. I mean, it's all on video. I was being professional. I did everything that I've known to do over the course of my time of being in law enforcement and working highway patrol, and knowing it's a prestigious thing to be a part of. Like I didn't cuss. Even when I got in the car, she's still cussing and fussing and fighting, banging, and I'm still nice to her. We get to the jail, they have to put her in some padded room because she was just all over the place. And I'm still being nice to her.
Yes, I still just don't really understand. I mean, I would have probably not been nice too if I hadn't thought I broke the law and I was getting took out of my vehicle. I would be pretty upset myself.
Commissioner Wilbur, I might ask the sergeant to come up again. Do you know why your department concluded there was no probable cause to initiate the traffic stop? And
all the reports I have, I just have the supervisor's reports that when he reviewed the instance, there was no probable cause observed.
And I'm gonna go back to the Mr. Spencer. This is Commissioner Green. What did you arrest her for?
For failure to identify, if I'm not mistaken. I can't really remember what the TCA was that I got it for. Also resisting.
But you didn't charge her for an initial stop?
Well, I did write her a ticket, yes, I did.
And what was that?
Improper turn.
Describe the term.
Okay, so it's a caution light. So when it's a caution light, you're supposed to stop. You're supposed to stop. It's kind of, supposed to stop, kind of look both ways, and then you go. This car was already there coming, and she never stopped. She just turned.
So a yellow light.
Yes, sir. Not a yellow light, the blinking, the flashing blinking light.
Red or yellow?
It's
You said caution.
Yeah, like, it's a traffic light, but it's just blinking yellow.
Commissioner Wilbur, is that because it was that time of night that the?
Yeah, it was that time. I think they do something with the traffic lights at that particular time at night.
In the issue with the pictures, the text messages, did you ever send any in uniform?
No, sir.
So nothing that would have identified you as a trooper?
She already knew that. I pretty much told her like, hey, that's how I think she got on like being on the coming on the Nazarene trip. Because I was telling her, I was like, well, I think soon that I might be moving to Nazarene, start a new career. I mean, not a new career, but starting, something new, trying to get out of Alabama. Been there pretty much all my life with my dad before I moved from Detroit.
Well, I'm not talking about those text messages. We're talking about the text messages that were said here, explicit photos, videos, and text messages. So when you were sending the explicit photos or videos, was any of that in uniform?
No, sir.
I mean, what she said that y'all had a relationship. If I read this correctly, she told her husband that. Why would she lie to her husband and the internal investigator about that?
I think because I didn't want to talk to her no more. But when I told her that, and to get even more deep into it, so we're all fraternity brothers. So one of my people that I was initiated with, his dad, we're all mutual people. So his dad knows him and knows me. So he calls my friend's dad to ask me, hey, can you call and ask Matthew, what everyone calls me Yaya, did he have sex with my wife? He continues to call. So the dad calls me. I said, and he asked me the question. I said, no, sir, I haven't had any dealings with that girl besides buying her a birthday present. I hadn't had any dealings with her. So he comes back and just keeps calling me, keeps calling the dad. So the dad ends up saying, hey, if I get y'all on a little conference call, we can squash all this. So I'm like, so I agreed. So I'm like, yeah, like I don't have a problem with it, but the answer is still gonna be the same because I didn't do it. So he asked me once again, he was like, did you do it? I said, no. He was like, okay. So come to find out after the dad, after all this was over with, and he called me, he was like, hey, how everything going? I let him know what was going on. He was like, this is what I want to tell you. He said that he was just fishing for something. He said he has an uncle in Alabama Highway Patrol that told him that, well, text message is not really going to stick. You need to go to his supervisor and say that he had sex with her. He called the Sumter County Sheriff Department on multiple occasions saying, oh, I think he had sex with my wife. I think he had sex with my wife. He called Alabama Highway Patrol and said the exact same thing. So that's why he fished and got that information, because a lot of people don't know, to be honest with you, a lot of people don't know to call and file a complaint with a supervisor. They don't know to do that. So that's how he knew to do that, because his uncle told him, just say he had sex with her.
So it's a conspiracy against you.
He wanted me to own up to something that I didn't do, because one thing she did tell me a long time ago, that he thinks that she wants money from the divorce to take care of the kids and all this. And for him to get out of that, he needed this situation to work out how it worked out so that he don't have to do that for her, which has nothing to do with me.
Commissioner Beverly, but she admitted the same, correct? Even though they're going through divorce?
I don't know why she said that. I'm gonna be solely honest with you. I don't know why she said that.
Commissioner Beverly, I have a question for Department of Safety. Forgive me, I'm not too versed on how deep this went. Did you view any of the text message threads?
We did.
Okay.
And to be specific, we can't, I think is the answer we're all looking for. We didn't prove 100% that the two had sex. What we can prove is, and that goes into the termination of him, is that there was a relationship. There was nude photographs. I think if you read the summary, you can kind of see how explicit some of the videos were. And this was a married woman. She says she was going through a divorce, but she's a married woman. We all know what the importance of character with a police officer, any officer, and the Highway Patrol takes that seriously. He's early in his career. He's showing that he's got problems with his character, and I think that was the reason. And I'm speaking on behalf of the department. That what I believe is that that was the reason for his termination. There was other issues, other important issues that was discussed here today, but and I think you can read on the what was done, the text messages, the videos. Is it 100% proved? No, it's not 100% proved. But I believe that administratively, I think that was enough for us to consider that, yes, it occurred. She said it did. I don't know why she would have a reason to be untruthful about that. It would hurt her reputation more so than it would anybody's. And based on the other things that occurred, the text, the videos, and other things that was happening, the phone calls, I think we can all believe that the evidence was there to support that it did occur.
Did you tell if any of those text videos or pictures were sent on while he was on duty?
No proof that it was on you.
Thank you.
Yes.
And just to clarify, but he was not terminated for that. He was terminated for a pattern of conduct.
A pattern, yes, sir.
Commissioner Wright, that's kind of where my question was going to go to the sergeant. So in summary, would it be based on the totality of, a very short period of time, looks like 3 months and a few days, that all three of these pretty serious circumstances arose and came up, that's what led to the department's decision?
You're exactly right.
Got a question for Mr. Spencer. Mr. Spencer, what's your law enforcement aspirations from here? If you was to walk out of here with your law enforcement post certification still intact, what's your plans for the future?
Yes, sir. Still continue to do law enforcement. Just trying to come here and just clean this up. I know what type of officer I am, how I've been, all these big things on things like that. To people working with schools, doing SRO work, doing community involved, things like that. Just still trying to be a part of the basic. I think it's really important to me. I always want to do this. That's it.
What have you been doing since your time you left the department? Looks like, I guess, your last official may have been off on leave. Getting this investigation concluded, but it was 7/24 or 24. What have you been doing since that time period?
I've been just working security jobs and trying to still hold my duties up, trying to help my mom out, but still trying to get her here.
It's written word out all over the board. Commissioner Beverly, I'm gonna make a motion to decertify.
Commissioner Wilbur, second.
We have a motion to approve the request to decertify by Beverly, a second by Wilbur. Any further discussion amongst the commissioners? Hearing none, we'll take the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Hearing none. Motion carries. Investigator will say your next steps. Call the roll for the three that were absent when we started. Connor Bracken. Joshua Hawkins. Timothy Powers. Hearing none, I would entertain a motion for default decertification for the reasons listed.
Commissioner Beverly, motion for default decertification for each of the proposed for reasons listed.
Commissioner Wilbur, second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Commissioner Ryan, I guess we have noticed that all will properly serve.
Yes, sir. I'll take the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Hearing none, motion carries. And unless anybody has any other business for the informal committee, this committee will stand adjourned.
See you tomorrow.